ये बताओ तुमने किस किताब में पढ़ लिया? एंट्रोपी तो हम पढ़ते हैं। तो बड़े जोर से हंसे, बोले तुमने गाइड पिक्चर देखी थी देवानंद की? मैं कहा देखी थी। बोला गाइड में देवानंद ने एक बार भी ये नहीं कहा कि मैं भगवान हूं, मैं पानी बरसा सकता हूं, मैं बच्चों को ठीक कर सकता हूं, लेकिन अपनी जान बचाने के लिए वो चुप रहा। उसी तरीके से हम डॉक्टरों को कभी भी डॉक्टर की डिग्री तो देते ही नहीं, हम लिखते हैं एमबीबीएस, बैचलर ऑफ मेडिसिन, बैचलर ऑफ सर्जरी। अब तुम उसको जबरदस्ती डॉक्टर समझ रहे हो तो हम क्या करें इसके लिए? गलती हमारी क्या तुम्हारी? तुम बेवकूफ कि हम बेवकूफ? जेंटलमैन, every pathy has its own limitations and advantages. Now, I will present to you, before Lalit comes, Mr. Varun, Chief Executive Officer of Breathe Easy. सांस लेना जरूरी है। अभी आपके पहले निगम साहब ने बताया कि साहब योगा कितना इंपॉर्टेंट है, प्राणायाम कितना इंपॉर्टेंट है। He teaches at School of Planning and Architecture a course on human wellness in the built environment. So may I present Mr. Varun?
Thank you, sir. Well, a very, very good evening, everyone. Varun Agarwal here.
Varun, you have only 10 minutes.
Yes, sir.
Because Lalit is ready to come over.
Yes, sir. I have to very quickly say that the first half of that entire session was so inspiring. I've been somewhat living that life for the last 2 months, and I've lost 14 kilos, and I enjoyed every second of his talk. So, thank you, sir. And I'm not going to take a lot of time because I know I want to sit through the rest of what you have to offer over here. I'm going to take less than 10 minutes if I can. This is one, coming out from your slide, you had one little line over there which says the air you breathe has some toxins that go into our body. And I work in a company called Breathe Easy. We started this working at a group company called Paharpur Business Center, which some of you may have heard of. My father-in-law started that business center, and he was on the board of IIT Delhi. And he created the cleanest building of Delhi, and it's been certified to be the healthiest building by the Central Pollution Control Board. I took his learnings over the last 25 years, and I created a business saying other people need to know about how they can live healthy lives from an air quality perspective. So very, very quickly, we spend 90% of our time indoors. Unlock human potential in your buildings, in your spaces that you live in the spaces that you work in. 7 concepts that I teach at the School of Planning and Architecture. They cover air, water, nourishment, food, which Sir was talking about a lot about earlier, light, fitness, comfort, mind. 5 things that go into the human body. 5 of them are air, water, food, light, and sound. All of these go in and actually have an impact on the human wellness that we all want and we are all here for. Today I'm going to focus this talk on air, which is a very, very important part. We all drink 2 to 4 to 5 liters of water a day, but each and every one of us breathes about 12,000 liters of air in one day. And do we even know what is in the air that we breathe? We all want clean water. We all want filtered water. Some of us want RO water, even though it may not be necessary. But water is a whole different topic, so I won't go into that. But air, what is in the air that we breathe? 13,000 liters of it every single day. 3 broad buckets of pollution that we know are existing in Delhi. The first bucket is particulate pollution, PM, which is in this room. I have a device in my hand which is actually going to measure it, and I'll tell you what it is here and in what it is in some other cleaner countries. Gaseous pollution, ozone, volatile organic compounds, NOx, SOx coming from the emissions from our automobiles, etc., and microbiological pollution. Today I'm only going to focus on 2, particulate pollution, which is in the air right here, which is invisible and we are breathing in and it goes into our lungs, and carbon dioxide, something that very few of us sometimes are aware of. In a closed room, we sleep at night with the air conditioner on, the CO2 levels go very high, and we wake up a little bit lethargic, little bit tired. Why? Because we are breathing stale air all night long. What we're breathing out is 40,000 parts per million of carbon dioxide. What we're breathing in outdoors is 400 parts per million of carbon dioxide. And in a closed room with a split air conditioner running, your CO2 goes to close to 3,000 parts per million, when anything above 800, as per a Harvard study, says it's not good for us. So air pollution, it affects our nervous system, it affects our respiratory system, it affects our cardiovascular system, it affects our urinary system and our reproductive system. So it's not just affecting our lungs. A lot of people think that the air we breathe is bad for us and it's affecting our lungs. We get a cough, we get a cold, and that's because of the air we breathe. But it's much, much, much more than that. It actually goes very deep into our lungs and creates problems with the entire human body. Where does this particulate matter, what goes into our lung, come from? It comes from automobile exhaust, it comes from diesel exhaust, waste and trash burning, brick kilns, construction dust, and two major sources, the stubble burning, the parali as we call it, and biomass fuel burning or domestic heating. Okay, this is moving too fast or too slow. This is mortality from PM 2.5 in the United States. Red is bad, blue is good. So you can see some nice bright red spots. Now just India. Not a single blue spot out there. The entire Indo-Gangetic belt, because of the crop burning that happens over there, because of the high levels of emissions, we are in a situation which is unprecedented. Warning, these are the lungs. We got this picture from one of the leading lung surgeons in Delhi, Dr. Arvind Kumar from Gangaram Hospital. He showed me, he said, this is a lung of a person living up in the mountains, breathing clean air. And this is a lung of a non-smoker living in Delhi. And this is what happens to our lungs. The particulate matter goes in. We cannot change this filter of our body. You change a filter on a machine, you cannot change this filter easily. I was at the World Economic Forum in Davos last year, and the reading in Davos outdoors was 0, and at the same time was 222 AQI with a PM 2.5 of 172 micrograms per cubic meter. Folks, this is carcinogenic, grade 1 carcinogen as per the World Health Organization. The limit as per WHO is 10 micrograms per cubic meter for our annual average. Delhi's annual average is over 150 micrograms per cubic meter. It's going into our lungs. Smokers, that's your choice, you want to smoke. But everybody else who's a non-smoker, you don't have a choice, but you're being pushed close to 20 cigarettes down your throat, down into your lungs, and there's nothing much you can do about it. I'll just spend very quickly a few seconds on this slide. This is one of the most important slides, and I can spend a few minutes or even 30 minutes on this one, but very quickly, you see the curve on each one of these is very steep up front, and then it flattens out. And what this means is your exposure to particulate matter is at the x-axis. So from 0 to 25 micrograms per cubic meter, you have a steep curve. From 0 to 25 micrograms, you have a steep curve in terms of health effect for cardiovascular IHD, cardiovascular stroke, lower respiratory disease, and lung disease. So ischemic heart disease, cardiovascular stroke, lower respiratory disease, and lung disease. From 0 to 25 is a very steep curve. Your risk rates go high, but after that it flattens. So living in Delhi, you are even beyond this curve because here it stops at 125. And in Delhi, we are at about 250. So you're beyond this curve over here. But even if you were to bring it down to 50 or to 25, your health risks don't come down as much. You need to get it down closer between 0 and 10 for the health risks to start to come down from a PM 2.5 perspective. This is very, very critical. In my bedroom, the PM 2.5 is 0. In my office, it is between 0 and 10. In my car, it is close to 0. So 90% of my time, my exposure is 0. What is your exposure 90% of the time? That's my entire goal is how do I reduce my exposure to PM 2.5, which creates a whole bunch of issues in my entire human body. And it's something that I don't actively go out for. I can't even help it. I don't even know it. I'm breathing it. Just so you know, right here in this room, this is a particle counter, a little different to the earlier reading, but the reading over here is 250,000 particles per liter of air. In Switzerland, where I go frequently for work, the outdoor reading is 20,000 particles per liter of air. We are 10 times higher, and it rained this morning. By winter time, this number goes up to over 1 million particles per liter of air in Delhi. And there's nothing we can do about it. It's going into our lungs. We can't see it. It's invisible. We think it doesn't affect us. We say, oh, we've lived in Delhi all our lives. It doesn't make any difference to me. My lungs are stronger. Oh, we've developed immunity against it. Sorry, if you think you develop immunity against air pollution, each and every one of you should be giving a packet of cigarettes to your children and grandchildren, because what? Guess what? That might make their lungs even stronger. But it won't. Air pollution is hurting us every second that we're breathing air with pollutants in it. And we need to do something about it. Carbon dioxide, I talked about it earlier. It's an indicator of elevated level of pollutants, but it leads to headaches, dizziness. That's why you wake up feeling a little bit lethargic. Give me 10 more minutes of sleep, and then I'll wake up to drop my kids to school or my grandkids to school. Harvard says that anything over 800 parts per million of carbon dioxide leads to cognitive ability issues. So you have a classroom with 30 kids, you have high levels of carbon dioxide because you close the classroom, perhaps you have air conditioning over there. How are they going to learn? Cognitive ability goes up by 101% if your CO2 is below 800 and your other pollutants are in control. We are not doing that in most of our buildings. In the bedroom, it goes up to 3,000. So in that building, in Paharpur Business Center, we have 7,000 natural plants which help reduce the carbon dioxide, and it stays at under 600 parts per million. The 3 plants that we focus on are the areca palm, the mother-in-law's tongue, and the money plant. Great, all 3 are brilliant plants at removing various pollutants like carbon dioxide, like formaldehyde, like particulate, not so much particulate matter, but a lot of the other volatile organic compounds. We have large mechanical solutions in that building to remove the particulate matter and other harmful gases that come from outside. But a lot of the indoor pollutants like volatile organic compounds and carbon dioxide are removed by 7,000 of these God-gifted plants to us. That's the business center. It's the first building in India to get a US Green Building Council LEED Platinum certification. Indian Green Building Council's Health and Wellbeing Platinum certification also for that building. We're a Bureau of Energy rated 5-star building. So we maintain every international parameter from a standards and quality perspective, yet we use some of the lowest energy for any building that you would find in India. We have a greenhouse on the rooftop of the building with these plants. We clean the air through mechanical systems. We bring it into the greenhouse. It gets oxygenated and it further purified in the greenhouse with the help of these natural plants. And then this air gets piped into every single room in the entire building of 55,000 square feet. So everybody in the building gets a little piece of this greenhouse. You walk into the greenhouse, you take a breath of air in the middle of the most polluted part of Delhi, Nehru Place, and you'll go, wow, where am I? This isn't Nehru Place, this is not Delhi, this is not India. That's the reaction that most of our visitors have when they come into this greenhouse and they experience what we have done for ourselves. We have now taken this concept to many other people. This is another space in the business center as well for wellness, where you can sit over there, read a magazine, work, and it's super green, super clean, super fresh. You feel energetic once you've gone into that space. We publish the results of air quality in our building every single day for the last 28 years. We've invited the ambassadors and the governor and the chief minister and every person that we could get our hands on into our building the day after Diwali, when we know the air is the worst in Delhi. And we say, come and experience Davos quality air even the day after Diwali. That's what we do. And we report every single parameter that you can imagine, PM10, PM2.5, even PM1, the even smaller particles that go even deeper into our lungs and into our organs. Carbon dioxide, ozone, TVOC, sound level, fungal count, aerobic count, formaldehyde, chlorine, lead, mercury. We've tested chlorine, lead, mercury, hydrogen sulfide. People living in Noida, your air conditioners don't get warranty because the copper pipe gets corroded within 1 year. Imagine if copper pipes are getting corroded, it's because of hydrogen sulfide in the air. If it's corroding the copper pipes, what is it doing to our lungs? What we have tested in our building is that air which is low in carbon dioxide and pollutants actually improves your productivity and makes you smarter. There's a 42% probability that your blood oxygen saturation level, SpO2 meter, I'm sure everybody has seen one or seen somebody wearing it in the hospital or at home. Simple meter, you put on your finger with infrared, it tells you what is your SpO2 level. Being in our building with low CO2 levels, there's a 42% probability that your blood oxygen saturation levels will go up by 1%. Whereas in other buildings, there's a 39% probability it'll come down by 1%. So huge difference. People come into our building, they feel better by the end of the day. Most other offices, people come into the office by 3 o'clock in the evening, they're tired, they're fatigued, and they're ready to go home looking at the watch, 5 baje main ghar kab jaun. And what about your bedroom? This is actually live, not live, but real data from my bedroom. Before I had the perfect solution, I had these readings with a normal air purifier that I bought in the market. The CO2 level in my bedroom hit 2,400 parts per million at night. At 2 a.m., it was 2,200. At 4 a.m., it was 2,400. And 8 a.m., we opened the windows and it came down to 600. The PM 2.5, because I had an air purifier in my room, was down to 10, 15, 20, and when we opened in the morning, same time when we started opening the windows, it went up to 30, 40, and it kept going up after that because the windows were open. I found the perfect solution. The CO2 now, 700, 600, all night long stays at 600, and my PM 2.5, the daily average PM 2.5, came down to close to 0 micrograms per cubic meter in my bedroom. It's possible. It is possible to get perfect Swiss. I say I bring Davos to Delhi. I bring the world's best air into Delhi for people who understand it, who want it. And it's possible you can do that. This is how I did it in my room. It's all about positive pressurization with the right filtration to remove all the harmful pollutants from outside that come into your space. And that's what we've been able to achieve. I know I've gone more past 10 minutes, but thank you very much, and I really appreciate your time. I try to go as fast as possible, sir.
Thank you, Varun, educating us about air purification and why it is so necessary. And now, gentlemen, we are requesting Lalit Mohan Kapoor. Yeah. Before that, you want to depart? No.
Sir, I'm just switching it off.
Okay. May I request Damneesh to kindly honor Varun. Now Lalit will be briefly talking about how to get rid of diabetes, how to get rid of blood pressure, how to get rid of thyroid problems. And thereafter, Lalit, the house will be open and he will be answering your questions. Thank you. Lalit, please.
Yeah. So we discussed earlier how important food is in staying healthy and avoiding developing any chronic illnesses. I will take up a couple of common conditions. One is hypertension or high blood pressure, and second is diabetes. So let's talk first about how the chronic conditions develop over time. You know, our body has a compensating mechanism, and when you wean a child of 2-year-old off mother's milk, the child is in very good health. His all blood vessels are clean, clear, and then you give that child a boiled egg, a 2-year-old child, you give him a boiled egg or a fried egg. There's something called inflammation. We all hear about word inflammation. We don't, many of us don't fully understand. If you, in your house or you have a staircase and one of the step is, let's say, slightly higher, riser, all of the risers 7 inches and one is a 9-inch, you are going to hit your leg on that step because you are trying to only raise it 7 inches, you don't hit, maybe you're hitting your toe. Or if it's the other way around, you're hitting your knee. When you fall, you hit your knee, it scratches. What happens? It swells up. The knee swells up. Why does it swell up? because your body realizes that something has happened. I need to heal this knee, and rushes the blood. It rushes the blood to your knee, and the white blood cells in that blood fight the external infection if anything is coming. So body compensates to the situation by pumping blood. That is inflammation. If you don't fix that step in your house on the second floor, and you keep hitting yourself again and again every day, that hurt will become a chronic condition. Initially, it's a one-time condition, it becomes chronic condition. When we eat food 3 times a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, it's going inside the blood vessels. Blood vessels have an inside lining which is made of endothelial cells. It's a single cell layer. And human body has about 70,000 miles of blood vessels. If you put them end to end, we have 70,000 mile long blood vessels. All the internal lining of these 70,000 mile blood vessels together is called endothelium. So the cell is called endothelial cell. All together, this lining is equal to in size from 6 to 8 tennis courts. If you split them open and put side by side, it's about 6 to 8 tennis courts. Every second, because your heart beats, let's say 60 beats per minute, so every second your heart is pumping blood on these 6 tennis courts. They're getting a fresh supply of blood. If your food has some food items which are inflammatory, they're causing inflammation again and again. So breakfast, lunch, dinner, 3 times a day, you're hurting your internal lining of your blood vessels. Now, when your knee gets hurts or your son's knee gets hurts, what do? You go get an ointment, malham. You put some malham to heal it. That's what we do, okay? What does body do? When your endothelial cell or the internal lining gets hurt, the body takes some cholesterol and applies it like a malham. And that is how it heals that inflammation. So from the child of 2-year-old, we start eating food which is inflammatory, and the body starts to apply that cholesterol as time goes by. Now, interestingly, all the foods which do not have fiber are inflammatory. All animal foods are inflammatory. All animal foods don't have any fiber, 0. Okay. So your blood vessels are now getting clogged. They're getting it's like if you are playing with an abrasive black color ball, tennis, on a white tennis court. Every time the ball hits the tennis court, a little bit of black gets deposited on the tennis court. By the time you finish the game, you realize certain areas have become black. By the time you finish the tournament, more and more areas have become black. Similarly, our blood vessels' effective opening keeps reducing as a 2-year-old child grows up to be 3, 4, 5, 11, 13, 16, 18. During Vietnam War, they did autopsy on many soldiers who had died, and they found that their blood vessels were already beginning to clog. These are 18, 19, 20-year-old young boys, but they were having atherosclerosis. It's called atherosclerosis, formation of deposits of cholesterol on the internal lining of your blood vessels. Now the blood has to flow. Whatever amount of blood you have has to go from point A to point B. If the lining reduces in size, the pressure has to increase for the same amount of blood to flow. It's simple. If the tube or the diameter of the tube and the blood pressure is inversely related. If the narrower the diameter, the higher the blood pressure. So that is one condition which is hurting your body on a daily basis from the age of 2 onwards. Every time you eat any oil, it is inflammatory. It is causing that hurt. Okay, that's one type of hurt. So let's look at what are the leading chronic illnesses and how does body compensate and how does this develop. So this is a chart. The body adapts. So this curve is a straight line portion from here to here. Body goes up and down on that straight line portion. It knows what to do. Body is the best doctor. It knows what to do. It goes up and down. So you misbehave one time, it goes up towards illness. But the next day, you behave well and you eat sarson ka saag. You say, hey, that's great, I love it. It comes down. It's happening every day. You eat an egg, it goes up. You had that sarson ka saag, it came down. And it's working in that direction. But when you start repeating and start going beyond here, that's when the disease develops. So the body adapts and masks the impact. Beyond a certain point, the symptoms appear. It cannot mask anymore. So the symptoms appear. When the symptoms appear, you go see a doctor. The doctor gives the diagnosis. He writes you a prescription. Doctor's prescription is to bring that symptom in control. He doesn't want to address the cause of it. When you go see a doctor at the age of 49, 50, when the first time your blood pressure is diagnosed, you appear shocked. He says, don't worry, I'll give you medicine, you will be fine. How long do I have to take the medicine the rest of your life? In fact, I'll tell you a story. When I would go to see a doctor and I was 25, 30, 35 years old, they'll give you a form to fill. And they'll ask you, are you taking any medications? Now, I being an engineer and I had done 1 year of industrial engineering where they teach you how to design forms. And I said, what a silly form. Of course, I took medicine when I was sick, but I'm not taking anymore. Why would I take medicine? You take medicine to get better, then you stop taking medicine. So this form is poorly designed form. I didn't know that there are people who have to take medicine the rest of their life. I had no idea. I mean, as a 25, 30-year-old healthy person, yeah, sometimes I felt sick. Once the doctor said, take it for 3 days, and I was fine. But then when I went to see for the blood pressure first time at the age of 49, he said, you'll have to take it the rest of your life. I said, you have to be kidding. He said, no, this is what happens. We have to take it for the rest of your life. And I realized that the form was not poorly designed. That is what happens in medicine field. So when you take that medicine, then the body, to body that medicine is a foreign substance. All medicine first goes to your liver to metabolize. And then it goes to kidney to get rid of the toxins. All medicines are toxic. When they're trying to get a medicine approved, the goal of the pharmaceutical company is to disclose the least number of side effects so the medicine can be sold easily. So if they have to write 3 side effects that you read, the paper that you get from your doctor, those are the 3 that they could not get away with. Behind every 3 side effects, there are another 17 that they could get away with that you don't know. Okay? Because as we talked about earlier, Ayurveda says there are 10 types of bodies. So the side effects on different types of bodies will be different. As soon as you started putting in your body a chemical substance, you are in unknown territory, uncharted territory. For 10 million years, your body never saw that substance. When you eat an apple, the body says, I know it, it's fine. It processes it in 20 minutes, it's gone out of your stomach. When you take a medication, body says, what is this? For 10 million years, I never saw this. And this is a new thing, what to do with it? All your part of body are confused. Think of body as a doctor. Body is the best doctor. You know, you're searching for doctor everywhere, but you are the doctor. Your body is the doctor. Okay. There's a Doha, Pani bich meen pyasi, mohe sun sun avat hasi. It is, of course, philosophical. It's about Paramatma, the super, and the consciousness within us. But it also applies to the doctor within us. We're seeking the good doctor outside when your body is the best doctor. It knows what to do under any circumstances. Except that once you start feeding it chemicals, it then tries to, in its best way, whatever possible, do that. And the medicine interferes with the body's healing response, and side effects lead to further complications. Something else happens. When that happens, you go to doctor again, you go to more specialists, get involved, more medicines and procedures are prescribed, and this continues, this illness continues. So this is how a chronic disease. Your goal is, and I want to help you achieve that goal, and it's very easy. All the people are achieving that. Get rid of medicine first. In many situations, the doctor A prescribes you one medicine, but then medicine creates another problem. I took diabetes medicine. They gave me first metformin. After metformin, then they give you a second medicine, because the doctor tells you on day one, it is a progressive disease. You'll have to live with it. It's going to get worse and worse. Take this medicine. Worse and worse means after first 2 years, you take a second medicine. Then after another 5 years, they add a third medicine. Then you go on to insulin. They start giving you insulin injections. Then after another 5 years, your kidney begins to fail, and they put you on dialysis. This is what goes on. A diabetic does not die of diabetes. There is no death which says diabetes. A diabetic dies of heart attack. Because the medicines they were giving us, and it happened with me, the second medicine was Avendia. Avendia then had to be stopped, and their lawsuits, because they found out that Avendia causes heart attack and cardiovascular disease. So my Avendia was then stopped. Doctor said, no, I can't give you. There are still many lawsuits pending. Okay. Then he gave me Actos, second medication. And then after 5 years, they know, in fact, they have known that Actos also causes a lot of side effects. So, and then I got off it. This is 2013. I mean, you know, you have seen a movie, One That Flew Over Cuckoo's Nest. That is a story of mine. These doctors, they don't know. Their intentions are good. That is what they have been taught for 5 years, 6 years. So they're doing what they've been taught. They're doing what is defined as a standard practice. If they don't follow that practice, they'll have a lawsuit, and the license can be canceled. So doctors are trying to do best. The doctor you are working with, he believes he's doing the best, but he is not. Now let's go to the next slide. What are the chronic causes of death? This statistics is American. I live in US, but heart disease, #1 cause of death in America. 647,000 people die. 48% adults have cardiovascular disease. That's half the people in America. Okay, they have cardiovascular disease. Cancer, 600,000 people die. Lung, breast, and prostate are the 3 leading causes of cancer. I talked about that breast and prostate both have directly been linked to consumption of milk. There's no if and buts about it. It is proven. Okay. Chronic lower respiratory disease like COPD, bronchitis, emphysema, asthma, 150,000 patients in America. Okay. This is common, this is quite common in Delhi because of the air quality he talked about. This relates to air quality. Stroke and cerebrovascular disease, 140,000. Alzheimer, 93,000. 10% of people over 65 have Alzheimer. Diabetes, 80,000 people, 10% of the population in America. And the population includes children. So if you count of population above age of 50, the number is more like 40%. Kidney disease, CKD, chronic kidney disease, 50,000. Okay, sorry, influenza and pneumonia, 57,000. CKD, 50,000, 14% of population. Liver disease, 38,000, 9% population. Hypertension. This number is not available because hypertension, again, leads to other problems. So this number was non-definable. But 33, one in 3 people in America are on hypertension medication. Now let's look at, so you go to a doctor, and doctor takes your blood and says, I'm going to send the blood for a blood test report. 50, 60 years ago, when you went to see a doctor or Vaid or Hakim, he looked at your pulse, he looked into your throat, asked you to open the mouth, looked into your eyes, talked about what do you eat, and how was the poop yesterday morning, what did it look like, how is your urine, ask you 10, 15, 20 questions, examine you. They don't do that anymore. They just take some blood out, it goes to a lab, the lab result goes to the doctor looks at the blood report and compares to what is known as normal. So it's important to understand, where does this normal come from that the doctor is judging me against? More often than not, the normal is coming from America, most advanced country in the world. So say, okay, in American doctors have said this is normal. How do normal come? It's a statistical analysis. You sample a large population. Let's say you sample 1 million people. And for the 1 million people, the potassium, the mean of potassium was, let's say, a figure of whatever, 29. Okay. Then say 1 sigma variation. 1 sigma variation varies from 21 to 33. How about 2 sigma variation? Varies from 18 to 37. And they say this is the range up to 2 sigma. Okay. Now, in America, they all eat meat. They don't eat enough green vegetables. Once you start eating green vegetables, your potassium goes up. The doctor sees and says, your potassium is too high. My potassium is always too high. Hey, I'm eating 1.5 kilos of vegetables every day. Obviously, it will be high. It doesn't mean I'm unhealthy. They're not concerned how good you feel, how bad you feel. Do you feel healthy? You don't feel healthy. You got a problem. And that's what happens with diabetes, and I'll come to that. So, normal, this is how to come up with normal. Health and eating habits of the population sample determines what is normal. Normal for US population may not be normal, may not apply to India. Food supplement industry has vested interest in influencing these normal to increase sales of their products. So now if your normal potassium is low, they'll say potassium supplement or calcium supplement. They want normal to be narrow, to be on the wrong side. Doctors lobby has interest in establishing normal that increases their business. If you're outside normal, you'll go see a doctor. So that's the doctor's fee there. Drug industry has interest in defining normal in a way that increases the number of abnormals. Outer normal range also leads to further investigation and tests. So testing labs have vested interest in defining the normal also. So normal of somebody, a normal pulse rate in Delhi might be 68 plus minus 10, so 58 to 78, your resting pulse rate. But if you go to Bhutan and you take a Bhutanese population, then normal pulse rate will be much lower. And you take a Bhutanese guy and say your pulse rate is too low. I just heard somebody meet me today, he says, I'm taking medication because my pulse rate is too low. I don't know. They're climbing up and down every day, 2,000-3,000 feet. Obviously, their pulse rate is going to be a lot less. The heart is a lot more efficient. So there's a problem. I see a problem with normal. Let's look at hypertension. Now, hypertension, one big problem is that the doctor's office, when they take your blood pressure, you're already anxious. It's called the white coat effect. When they take your blood pressure, doctor comes in, so you're sitting on a high bench, and your feet are not touching the ground, they're floating very often, they have those. I don't know if you have seen, okay? And the doctor is talking to you, and he's putting your cuff to take your blood pressure. Everything he's doing is wrong. The doctor you're not supposed to be talking for 5 minutes. Your back needs to be supported. Your feet need to be on the ground. There are 19 criteria which need to be followed when they take blood pressure measurement for research purposes with automatic machines in a dark room where the pressure is taken automatically, okay? So nobody is talking to you. You haven't had coffee in the prior half an hour. And your feet are on the ground, the back is supported, and all other criteria. They have found that the blood pressure measurement is higher here. In a recent study called Systolic Blood Pressure Intervention Trial, SPRINT, it was found that the proper measurement called research grade 5-minute resting, 3 automated measurements, and no other human in the room was 12.7 millimeter lower than the routine office measurement. This is routine doctor's office measurement. I'm not talking something that you may take with an inexpensive machine. 12.7% higher, okay? Now, so that is the one thing. So even if you are not hypertension, the doctor reading will be higher and say you are hypertension and start this medication. A recent study in 20 clinics showed that of all readings that were over 140/90, 36% had normal second measurement. You must always take 3 readings and pick the lowest of the 3. Okay, that is your real reading. So even if you're taking it at home, try to take it 3 times. Sometimes there's some disagreement. Some say take the average of the lowest 2 reading. Some say take the lowest reading. Okay. So these are some of the other criteria. There are 19 different elements that constituted an accurate blood pressure measurement. For example, need to be seated for 5 minutes, back supported and feet on the ground. No caffeine smoking or exercise for half hour prior to reading. No talking by patient or observer. No clothing under the cuff. Here often they say, if you're wearing sweater, no, it's all right. I can put it on the sweater. Wrong. Shouldn't be done. Okay. Repeat measurements with results average of lower, this is what should be taken, or the lowest reading. Okay. So this is one problem in how they're taking measurement. All of you who are on blood pressure medication here, and there must be quite a few, please understand this, that the reading that your doctor is taking is likely to be high by roughly average about 12 points. Okay. Now let's also talk about, in the next slide I'll talk about, how do they decide what is normal for blood pressure? I talked about normal for various blood chemistry and things like that. So there are vested interest. There's a group of doctors which is called American Medical Association, AMA. India must have also some organization. There are drug companies who have vested interest. There are food companies who also have vested interest. So they form a committee. It's called Joint National Committee, JNC. National Committee meets every few years. There's no fixed routine, sometime after 10 years, sometime after 7 years. And they have representatives. Representatives from government are there. Representatives from drug industry are there. From medical colleges are there. From AMA are there. And then some consumer activists are there. And they collectively make a decision. So if the council has 11 members and 6 voted that the cutoff point should be so much, and 5 took objection, they'll go with what the 6 voted. So a lot of politicking goes on here, because one minor decision there can drop the sales of blood pressure medication, can drop a lot of people who are being treated as patients may drop out and they may not go see their doctor because they suddenly realize, oh, I'm not a blood pressure patient. I thought I was. So a lot of money is at stake. So I'm going to show you history of last 3 meetings of the Joint National Committee. So JNC 6 met in 1997. They said optimal blood pressure is 120/80. But if it is 140/90 or higher, you are a hypertension patient and you should be put on medication. This was 1997. Then some more drug industry lobby became more powerful, and the doctors lobby, because it's in both interests to have more patients, that by 2004, which is 7 years after that, they said the risk of cardiovascular disease beginning at 115/75 doubles with each increment of 20/10. So we will call pre-hypertensive 120/80. That means even if you're 120/80, you are pre-hypertensive, you better start taking some preventive medication. See, the preventive medication, they don't agree that the medication may cause more diseases, which is what I'm trying to tell you here. Because your body, for 10 million years, never saw that chemical. Now when that chemical goes, the body doesn't know how to deal with it. So the doctors' lobby got a little stronger here, and they came up with this. Then after 10 years, in 2014, they said less than 60 age, your normal is 140/90. That is your normal, which here they said 120/80. And if you're over 60, your normal is 150/90. Now, a lot of people here who are over 60, I can say that their blood pressure is less than 150/90, but they're taking medication. Somehow, your doctor has put it in your mind that the normal is 120/80. That information is 15 years old. Or here, that information is 22 years old. This is the time when that doctor probably graduated from college. The doctors don't spend time reading these things. They're too busy making money. Just too busy. Okay. And so I want you to understand that this is your cutoff point. And half of those of you who are taking blood pressure medication don't need that medication. Because first of all, the measurement is wrong by how much? By 12 points. So if your measurement is 150/90, it is the true measurement is probably 138 or 139 if you take it under research conditions. Okay. So first of all, the measurement is wrong. Secondly, the criteria they're using, 120/80, is wrong, and it should be 150/90. This is for those who are over 60. If you're under age 60, yes, it is 140/90. So it's very simple. You know, just keep this in mind, make a notation of this. And you go back and tell your doctor. Because these are political decisions, they are not scientific decisions. There's not much science that changed from 97 to 2004. And not much science that changed from 2004 to 2014. It is how those committees got formed and how that decision got done. So what I recommend is at least make some good changes. In the first session, we talked about what are the changes, okay? I mean, nothing else, start having green juice. 20 minutes before every meal, have a glass of green juice. It's very easy to add, even if you don't subtract any food. Eat lots of fruits and vegetables. The doctors here tell you wrong. If you're diabetic, they say don't eat mangoes, don't eat watermelon, don't eat this. This is crap. Eat lots of fruits. I have evidence after evidence. There's not enough time. When I form a group, I pass on that evidence. Actual study. You can also do research yourself. Okay. You go to GovMed site where all papers are published. Okay. And it's a US site. You can do research on any subject, on any blood pressure issue, others. I send links to studies that have been done on every chronic illness to tell you what is the state of the art, what is the different lobbyist interests were involved, how the decisions were made. Okay, so that's about blood pressure. Second, we'll talk about diabetes. So what is diabetes? You go see a doctor and your fasting sugar he takes and it comes out to be 135. He says you're diabetic. He puts you on one drug called metformin. And his goal is to keep your blood sugar level low. That's a wrong decision. First of all, your body compensated for your lifestyle and increased. So diabetes is insulin insensitivity. the insulin is not anymore able to do what it is supposed to do. Because if your body had a lot of insulin throughout the day, your body becomes insensitive to insulin. It's just like alcohol. If you had your first drink in your life when you were whatever age, 16, 17, 19, 20, 21, you might recall that experience. I recall it very well. I was 22 years old. My cousin's husband wanted to have his scotch. He needed company. I was studying in Bombay for my graduate studies, spending the night with them. He said, come have a drink. You must try. It's a good scotch. And I had a glass of scotch. I was sitting across, giving him company, talking. And then the call came. My cousin said, the dinner is served. Please come. And when I tried to get up from the chair, I couldn't stand straight. I suddenly realized, what have I done? What has happened to me? I said, I'm going to go to the bathroom for a minute, okay, and get my composure back. Just one drink, one peg, that's all. So the body was so sensitive to alcohol at that time. This is what happens to everybody, okay, the first time you drink. Now, same person, if he has been drinking, after 4 years, he'll have 3 Patiala peg, and they say, I'm fine, I can drive back home. Okay, that's 6 drinks. Body has become accustomed to that alcohol. Similarly, when we start eating food that I mentioned earlier, 7 o'clock, so you have a tea with sugar and rusk or biscuits. Your call came to your pancreas, sugar coming, give me insulin, so pancreas release insulin. At 7:15, insulin has come in your body. Insulin is there in your blood. Now, 9 o'clock, the breakfast, that omelette has come, I need insulin. Insulin has come at 9 o'clock, is there. Another cup of coffee in office at around 11 o'clock, then lunch. Insulin is there in your body all the time. 9:30 dinner finishes, insulin remains in your blood for another couple of hours. Insulin goal is to put sugar into your muscles, put fat into your fat cells, put insulin into your liver, sugar into your liver. That's what insulin does. So when you, let's say from the age of whatever, 12, 13, you started eating that way, after 30 years, you lose sensitivity to insulin. And your insulin is not able to do its job. So initially, body compensates. Body keeps releasing more insulin to keep the sugar level where it needs to be, around 100, okay? Then body is no longer able to keep it 100 because it is releasing all the insulin it could. So now the sugar level begins to rise from 100 to 105, 110, 120. Now the cutoff for diabetes used to be 140, 145 till 1997. Then somebody came up with a smart idea. They reduced it from 145 to 120. Overnight, there were 20 million new diabetic patients. The doctor's business grew, tripled. Metformin company's business tripled. Okay. They just decided to change the cutoff point. No research supported that. Okay. It went to then. So this is what the body is no longer able to compensate, and your sugar begins to rise. And what do doctors say? They say, eat every 2 hours. Keep your sugar low. You eat every 2 hours, your body needs insulin every 2 hours. It's doing just the wrong thing, absolutely the wrong thing. Don't eat fruits. Fruit is what makes you healthy. Body loves fruit. Fruit is what you need. So they're giving you wrong advice. But what happens is, when you go, let's say you are 50, when my diabetes was diagnosed, you go see the doctor, and you say diabetes. Suddenly I'm shocked because I know that my dad had diabetes and it's something bad. That's all I know. By that time, we don't know. When the first time, we know that blood sugar is some blood sugar issue, blood sugar problem. So they give you medication, you take, but doctor tells you on day 1, it is a lifelong disease, it cannot be cured. First comment. It's a lifelong disease, cannot be cured. Second comment, it's a progressive disease. You will have to take more and more and more medication as we go on. Now, after 10 years, you go to the doctor and you say, God, nothing is happening. I've been coming to you. But son, I told you 10 years ago, it cannot be cured. So he has washed his hand off. What kind of profession or guarantee would a doctor give? Any other profession you will give. Now, I've come to fix your pipe, but I'm telling you the pipe cannot be fixed. and it's going to leak more and more and more. Will you call that plumber to your house to fix your kitchen pipe? Tell me. I will say, what are you doing here? That is what is going on. That is exactly what is going on. On day one, he told you it's a progressive disease. You'll have to take the medicine lifelong. You start with a single pill, twice a day maybe, a 500 milligram pill, milli or microgram, whatever, milligram. Then it increases to 1,000. Now that pill actually helps you gain more weight or makes you gain more weight, because that pill is putting that sugar back into your fat into your fat cells and sugar into your liver and muscles, okay? And the doctor says, I told you to lose weight. Well, you're telling me to lose weight and then you're giving me metformin, which actually makes me gain weight. Doctor is at fault. You're doing the wrong thing, exactly the wrong thing. Now he says eat every 2 hours, eat little bit. Now it's how difficult it is to eat little bit, you all know. I mean, if you love it, the food is good, you want to eat more. They have a lot of foods. The food industry is designing food, I told you earlier session. The Pringles says you can't just have one. And you say, okay, I'm just going to have 5 Pringle chips. But doctor said have little bit every 2 hours. Every 2 hours you're having a 5 Pringle chip, and you can't stop it and say, okay, just 5 more, only today, this time, or just 10 more. It's going in the wrong direction. Okay. So that's here. Eating frequent meals, that causes diabetes. Eating refined and processed foods, foods from which the fiber has been removed, causes diabetes, okay. Lack of fiber in diet. So this is what causes diabetes. How to cure it? Eat plant-based whole food. Whole food meaning food with fiber. So if you eat food with fiber, it releases sugar over time. If the breakfast, you had 500 calorie breakfast. You had apples, pears, watermelon, some oatmeal, okay? Oatmeal is full fiber. When it goes into your body, it is releasing maybe 100 calories an hour for next 5 hours. Now that 100 calories release or absorption matches with the amount of calorie you are spending for next 5 hours. So at 8 o'clock breakfast and 1 o'clock lunch, that's 5 hour time, you don't need much insulin, because the rate at which the energy is being absorbed in your intestine is the same rate at which you're spending it. Why do you need it? Now when you eat that sugary cereal that you buy in the market, the Kellogg or it's a lot of sugar. Now all of a sudden, within the half an hour, all the sugar has come into your blood, and your blood says, I need insulin. I don't know, I can't put it back. So insulin comes. So when you eat fiber-based diet, you don't need much insulin. Okay. Now, why I say do 16-8 intermittent fasting, I'll explain that. Avoid sugar and oily, totally work, okay. So when you work 10,000 steps, you are increasing energy expenditure. So every 2,000 steps is roughly 100 calories. So if you're walking around, find an excuse. If you work in the office, find an excuse to go to the restroom or somebody's office and walk around. It helps. Your steps, everybody should get, at least everybody who has a chronic disease, or all of them, some kind of a step counter. I want to make your life easy. Have a Fitbit or something. They're not expensive. I was wearing a Fitbit. I just changed this watch. I had a birthday and they gave me watch, so I changed it. And make sure you do 10,000 steps every day. There are parts of the world which are known as blue zones, where people live healthy life for 100, 115, 120 years. There are all over the world. The Okinawa Island in Japan is one of them. Seventh-day Adventist in Northern California is another group. Hunza in Pakistani part of northern Kashmir is another group. They are known as blue zones. When they counted the number of steps an average person takes in blue zones, it's about 14,000. An average resident of blue zones walks 14,000 steps in their daily life. It becomes easy if that doing those steps is part of your routine. If your parking lot is about 300 yards away from your office building, it helps. because you're forced to do that walk. Okay. If you have colleagues on the second floor above, floor below, you always take steps. These are simple things you can do. But this is how you cure your diabetes. 16-8 intermittent fasting. So when you finish your, let's say you finish your dinner at 7 and next day at 11. The dinner that you finished at 7, the insulin that was called, of course, if your dinner is plant-based, less demand for insulin because the fiber is there. So the energy is getting absorbed in your blood slowly. And maybe by 9 o'clock, all the insulin has been finished. So now from 9 at night till next morning at 11, no caloric food has gone in your body, so no call is made to pancreas to release more insulin. So there is no insulin in your blood for about 14 hours from 9 to next day 11, 14 hours. That is how you develop insulin sensitivity again. Okay, it's as simple as that. And this works. I mean, in my case, I told you my story. I didn't do fasting initially, okay? And it took me 2 years to get off medication, metformin, glipizide. But now some of the people in my groups are writing to me, after 6 weeks, I'm off my drugs because they're following the guideline to a T. They are doing 10,000 steps and they're doing 16-8 intermittent fasting. And it works wonders. So that has given me more confidence. I used to tell people, I can get you off diabetic medication in 1 year. I'm telling you now, I can get you diabetic medication, off diabetic medication in 2 months, each and every one of you. Okay. Here's the curve now I want to show you. So I showed you about blood pressure, how the blood pressure, the guidelines get tampered with, how the politics plays a role. Now let me show you. This study was done in 2010. Doctors I follow have been quoting this study. They have been giving talks everywhere that the doctors are treating diabetes wrong. They're treating it wrong, wrong, wrong. Finally, last year on March 6, 2018, American College of Physicians, which is a much larger body of all doctors, as opposed to only doctors for diabetics, which are American Society of Endocrinologists. When you have diabetes, you go to endocrinologists. Generally, that's a specialty, or diabetic specialist doctor. They said patients with type 2 diabetes should be treated to achieve an A1C between 7% and 8%, rather than 6.5% to 7%. The American College of Physicians recommends in an evidence-based guidance statement published today in Annals of Internal Medicine, March 6, 2018. Now, most people here, all people here, the IIT, I mean, you're the sharpest brains of the country. Listen to what is being said, that if you are taking diabetes, because this study evaluated all-cause mortality, death by any reason. A diabetic, I told you earlier, doesn't die of diabetes. He dies of heart attack. He dies of kidney failure. He dies of some other causes. So, if you are a diabetic, this is the curve. This is if you're taking insulin. And if you're taking insulin, your lowest death rate is if your A1C reading is around 7.8. Okay, 7.5 to 7.8. That's the lowest death rate. If it is A1C is less, your death rate is very high. If your A1C is 6.3, your death rate is that high. Or if your A1C is 10.5, your death rate is same. Okay? So if you're taking insulin, you're taking too much insulin, because that too much insulin is what's going to make your A1C go down. Okay, you're taking too much insulin, it is hurting you, it is going to kill you. This study had to be dropped, canceled before its deadline. Too many people were dying. They said, we can't let this prolong any longer. This is people who are taking the medication, 1 or 2 medication, metformin, glipizide, Genumed, they're different medicines, combining 2 of them. This shows the lowest death rate here between 7.5 and 8. So 7.5 and 8 range, your death rate is the lowest. So if you're going to a doctor, and I meet people all the time, say, I'm going to a doctor, I'm diabetic, but my A1C is 6.3. And they feel very good. The doctor feels very good. Your blood report comes, see how good you are feeling, 6.3. 6.3 is very bad. This is 6.5. This is 6.3. Higher death rate. If you're a diabetic taking diabetic medication and your score is in 6s, it's very bad. The doctor is killing you unnecessarily. Reduce your medication. To which point should you reduce? To a level of 8. Okay, this is the range, 7.5 to 8. So reduce medication to a point where your A1C is now 7.9 or 8. That's the comfort range. Now, but they say that maybe you can get to that without medication. So if you are 6.3 with medication, drop your medication tomorrow only. And after 2 days, measure it and see. Yeah, if you're up to 9.5, start that medication again. But if you're only 7.9, why take medication? So there is a flaw here, an inherent flaw, because if you're first time going to see a doctor, the doctor guideline says that if your A1C is above 6.5, you should be put on medication. Okay, that's the old guideline. So he puts you on medication. The new guideline says if you are on medication, you should try to maintain A1C around 8 and not 6.5. Is there a conflict between the two? This is the larger body, American College of Physicians. Okay, with less conflict of interest. Your doctor would not like that. Your doctor has 3,000 patients. Every patient pays that doctor 1,000 rupees for every call. I don't know. I know American rates, okay? He doesn't want half those patients to go away. So your doctor will say, my doctor says that, oh, we don't follow ACP guideline. We follow American endocrinologist guideline. BS. ACP is a bigger body. The doctors, I talked about Dr. McDougall, who has his patients drop all medication on day 1 in a 10-day residential program. And that 10-day residential program, they have lectures like this for 6 hours a day. And they feed you breakfast, lunch, and dinner with 0 oil and 0 sugar. And everything else you can eat. And you can eat as much as you want. See, the portion control never works. A lot of people try to have a portion control, eat only small plates, small. It doesn't work. If the food is tasty, you want to eat more. So portion control you can do for a week, for a month, not for the rest of your life. Intermittent fasting, you can do the rest of your life. You get used to it. You can eat only in 8 hours, 2 meals a day, rest of your life. Doesn't work. No problem with that. So this is the chart that everybody who is a diabetic here should remember by heart and go back and think about it. Half of you may not need to take medication because you are following a wrong guideline which is obsolete. The same thing I said about blood pressure. Okay, so I'm not going to cover other diseases because I knew that I was short on time and we want to have some question answer. I want to talk a little bit about anti-aging, then we are done. It has been shown because, you know, after the Second World War, we had a baby boomer generation. The soldiers went back home and they had children. So there are a lot of people here in the world, in US and Western world, India maybe not so much, who were born after 1945 till 1950, those 5 years, 6 years, we call baby boomer generation. Baby boomer generation is now 70, 75 range. They have the money to spend. So for last 10 years, a lot of research has been focused on coming out with some products that can be sold to baby boomer generation. So the research has been on anti-aging. And this is some of the concepts I just wanted to share, because everything that I've talked about is anti-aging. If you are 65-year-old and if you follow that, believe me, you will feel like a 45-year-old. the effects are just so profound, you will not believe it. That can happen. Your weight will go down to when you graduated at the age of 21. My weight is same as I graduated from IIT Kanpur in 1971. Okay. I lost 50 pounds, which I could have never believed. I feel more energetic. I climb more mountains. I walked 13.1 mile, which is half marathon, for the first time about 10 months ago, which I had never done. My highest was 12 months. And each one of you, thank you, each one of you can do that. That's why I said in the very beginning, when you see a good movie, you want to tell everybody about it. The reason I'm excited about here, I mean, I came last night at 12:30, my flight, okay? And this excitement is there, that I'm sharing it with you because each one of you who has diabetes or blood pressure and the other things can be off that, and not off that. You experience a change which you never thought you could. You will not get tired. I don't get tired anymore. I used to do trips, driving trips. I love sightseeing in California. After 6-7 hours of drive, I used to get tired. So I wish chai mil jaye. Agar India hota to kahin se garam samosa mil jate aur chai mil jati. Always missed it. Now I drive 10, 11, 12 hours. I don't get tired. That is what's going to happen to you. That is what I'm trying to say. Each one of you who is on medication, I know there's some young people here, and I'm very happy that you are here, because then prevention is the best thing. But everyone, and then I am not discussing other diseases such as cancer or hypercholesterol, but I want to tell a story about how hypercholesterol thing. Imagine you were a Martian living on Mars, and you had powerful telescopes watching Earth. You had interest in Earth, and you are scientists, you're watching Earth, and you say, you know, California gets a lot of wildfires. In India, you don't see wildfires anymore. There hardly much forest left, but they flare up in summer season. Every year there'll be fires, 30,000 acres burned, 500,000 acres burned here and there. So Martian is watching, he says, I see these flare-ups, like we see flare-ups in the sun. We talk about them, okay? And whenever there is a flare-up, I see these lot of red hat ants, bacteria, which have red top. They're firemen. So we should find a drug that kills firemen so that we can stop the fires. Wouldn't that be a lopsided story? Firemen are there to protect the earth, to extinguish the fire. But somebody watching from the outside makes that observation. So they find that there are a lot of people who have high cholesterol. And they have high cholesterol and they're dying of heart attack. Well, they have high cholesterol because they had a lot of high inflammation. They were eating food that they shouldn't have been eating. The cholesterol is actually helping you. It is a malham, I said. Like you apply malham on your knee, it is a malham that is being applied on the inner lining of your blood vessels. And you're trying to kill the cholesterol and reduce the cholesterol and have a drug. That drug causes so much problem. Statin drugs is the worst drug. It causes so many problems, and they put you on a statin. In America, every doctor who puts his patient on statin gets a kickback from the drug industry. There is a site, there's a professor of Johns Hopkins University. I attended a seminar. Okay, the seminar was called Let's Have Lunch. In America, pharmaceutical companies hire the prettiest looking women to become the salespersons of drug industry. And these women, when they call on a doctor, they say, let's have lunch. They don't talk about the side effects of medicine. They want to talk about lunch, the golf program, the conference you are coming, there's a good golf course there, would you want to play golf? All that discussion goes on. I have many doctor friends. You know, Indians are either doctors or engineers settled in America. So I have many doctor friends, and they tell me that's what goes on. So this is all lopsided. You are killing the messenger. The cholesterol is trying to help you. The lowering cholesterol is, in fact, let me tell you another story about cholesterol. Some people, 0.1% of that order, 1 in 1,000, have a genetic defect. That genetic defect makes your cholesterol level very high, like 600, 800, 400, in very young age, 18, 19, 20-year-old. So a drug was developed to treat those patients. Now the drug was approved, the sales were maybe $5, $10 million, that's it, because it's 0.1% of the population. So if you are a businessman, if there's some MBAs here what are you taught? If you have a product, find new markets for the product. Or if you have a market, find new products for that market. These are two ways to do good business. So the drug companies said, let's find more diseases for this drug. And at the same time, they were finding this report that high cholesterol is associated. It's not causes. There's a difference between association and causation. The high cholesterol is associated with higher cardiovascular disease. So they lobby. They lobby with the Senate. So senators are always willing to oblige you as long as you are funding their election campaigns. They lobby to say that let's create a new disease that if your cholesterol is higher than 200, this will be called a disease and the insurance company will pay for that drug. And that drug became the largest selling drug. It has sold over $100 billion in a span of 10 years, which is Lipitor and Crestor and other drugs. And that's the story on that issue. Okay. So human genes have end caps, like a shoelace. When you have a shoelace, on the end you have a little metal cap, tiny, 1 inch, to keep the cotton of the shoelace tied up. So the end is called end cap. So all human genes have end caps called telomeres. As these cells subdivide, all our cells are always subdividing, the tip length reduces. So if it was 1,000 units, it becomes now 998 units. After a certain time span, the telomeres become so small that the cell cannot subdivide. That's the cell death. The cell cannot subdivide anymore. Anti-aging research has shown that poor diet and lifestyle shortens telomere length. And research has also shown that healthy food and lifestyle can elongate telomere length and reverse aging. And that's what I was talking about. So this is my last slide. So final thoughts. Journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Take that journey. Take the first step. Okay. Drastic changes create noticeable results. It's good, would be nice if you can make a drastic change. Juicing can be that drastic change. Adding things is easier than deleting your favorite foods. Also, another observation I have made is, you make one conscious change, it leads to many unconscious changes. That conscious change can be simple thing as walking 2 miles a day. The next time you are at McDonald's, say, I'm not going to eat that chicken McNugget. My half an hour of walk will get neutralized by this. You make small changes that you're not conscious, and that helps. It takes 3 weeks to form a new habit. Do that. Thank you. Question answer कर लो फिर बुला लेना अभी इनके माइंड में.
I think Lalit has been extremely comprehensive, and the totality, everything has been explained. But still, some people might be having some questions still. So let us have some questions, and Lalit will be answering them. Right.
Good evening, sir.
I just wanted to ask you that I'm pre-diabetic. So once in a while I take a reading and it's about 100, 115 in the morning. But if I take it from one finger, it's a different reading. If I take it from another finger, it's a different reading. If I take it again after a minute, it's a different reading. So why does that happen?
So first of all, the morning reading, which is called fasting reading, is a very misleading reading. Fasting reading should not be treated as a sign of diabetes, because what happens is something called dawn effect. Your reading is lowest around 3 o'clock at night, okay? And then your blood glucose level goes up in anticipation of your morning routine. If your morning routine is busy, the body says, hey, I better get ready, because every morning 8 o'clock she goes for a walk or to gym or whatever you do at 8 o'clock. So your blood sugar rises up again. So the taking blood sugar reading occasionally, 2-3 times a day, is a flawed methodology. What I suggest to you all who are diabetic or concerned, get a continuous glucose meter. It's the size of a $1 coin, and you just attach it here. It has a 2-week life, and then on your cell phone, you take your cell phone close to it, like a reader, or and it'll give you a reading. It'll give you a curve for 24 hours continuously, and it will give you the A1C for that day, for 8-hour window that day, and that is how it is. So to answer your question, I don't know why 2 different fingers, but I just said is that taking glucose like that in the morning is a misleading indicator, and you should not worry about that. You should simply worry about, see where I'm doing wrong, what food that I'm taking wrong, and make that correction, and you will never have to face diabetes.
Sir, may I? Yeah. Sir,
Who's
my
talking?
father is diabetic.
Yes.
And doctors tell him to eat at regular intervals.
But I talked about that. That's
yeah,
wrong.
But you said intermittent, so will it not affect his
Eating
health?
because the doctor has told your father you
Yeah.
cannot be cured.
Right,
So if he doesn't want to be cured and only wants to keep blood sugar low, eat every 2 hours.
right.
But if he wants to be
So
cured,
it's okay to
then do intermittent
eat
fasting.
only twice a day?
Huh?
It's okay to eat twice a day only?
It's okay. No, twice a day in a narrow window. I mean, don't eat at 7 in the morning and then 11 at night. I mean, 12 hours apart. That doesn't help.
Yeah, but between 11 and 6, say.
Yes, shorten the window.
And he can
And then-
eat mangoes too,
And then all fruits, all mangoes, everything,
as much as he wants?
as much as you want.
Thank you.
Yeah, as much as you want.
Okay, I think I will not take much time. It's a fantastic session and so passionate. Thank you so much.
You're
I have a
welcome.
blood pressure and the diabetic. I'm not going to ask a question on that. I have a tinnitus, and which is so severe, which is increasing with the time. And doctors have said I've tried homeopathic, I've tried almost everything. If there is anything can
I
be
don't
done.
understand.
Tinnitus.
Balance,
No, the continuous ringing sound in the
ringing
inner
down.
ear.
I don't know, and I cannot say that's a chronic issue. My focus is totally chronic, something which gets worse over time. I don't know honestly about that. I'm not a doctor and I can't address.
I would like to know, there are staple foods like wheat, rice, dal, and bajra, jawar.
Everything. I said that you were asking me to repeat. Anything that grows in the ground and is whole. So bajra whole is fine. If you like bajra, eat bajra. Don't think bajra is healthier than wheat. So if you love roti wheat, but you're eating bajra because wheat is not good for me, that's wrong. A lot of us are making these decisions. Wheat is purely, gluten is not the problem. Wheat in America is the problem. That's why they write these articles, because wheat in America is A, genetically modified, and B, when it is harvested, they spray clean Roundup so that all wheat is equally dry and they can bring their combined truck and harvest 1,000 acres in a 12-hour shift. Okay, that's what Roundup is very bad for you. And genetically modified wheat has a problem. So that is a problem.
So Mr. Kapoor, could you kindly tell something about the sleep apnea? You said you will be covering that. But
One question.
Sleep apnea, could you kindly tell any specific precautions or steps other than what you have told to reduce weight? Sleep apnea, please.
Specific asan?
Sleep apnea.
Oh, sleep apnea. Yeah, so see, when body heals, your body wants to heal if you give it a chance. Body wants to heal, knows how to heal. It is crying out to heal. And then what I've discussed, recommended, is how the body heals. When body heals, everything heals. Sleep apnea heals. I told you I had sleep apnea. Okay? And my sleep apnea healed. So, I mean, my wife could not sleep without earplugs next to me. Okay? So that is what we need to understand. There's this whole concept that for this illness, take this food. For this illness, take this food. This illness is a flawed concept. It's a flawed concept. Healthy food cures everything. I give you one example that you need to understand. I wanted to tell that story and didn't have time. If you come back, you gone on a 2-week vacation, come back to your kitchen, and you find the kitchen is flooded because the sink got clogged and water was leaking. Now you and your wife rush to find a sponge to mop the floor. Okay? Now, just imagine if the world was like that. Before they had built the plumbing, they had channeled the water to come into your kitchen sink. And everybody has run into this problem time and again. There'll be research going on. There'll be National Institute of Sponge, or there'll be donations to a sponge society. The whole society will be working on making a better sponge. How with a single stroke I can mop up 2 kilos of water, 2 liters of water. Arey, just close the tap, yaar. That's causing the problem. The research is going on a sponge. On that, bring your diabetic sugar down, the wrong area. Close that sponge, that food that you're eating. Yes.
Sir, hello.
Yes, you.
Sir,
You're taking blood pressure medication. Yeah, so if you change your diet and you read that what is the normal for you, are you over 60? Okay, so your normal is 150 over 90. Your goal is 150 over 90. Stop your medication for 2 days and take a reading and see if it is within 150 over 90. Because maybe you don't need, I know so many people I meet who don't need medication. They come and they tell me, my blood pressure is 118 over 80. I'm taking medication, they're harming themselves. Low blood pressure is not good if you're on medication. Low blood sugar is not good if you're on medication. I don't understand that question.
Sir.
What is it? Neuroendocrine tumor. Okay. So the thing is, again, we don't talk about for one thing. We don't do it that way. Your body heals, everything heals. You sit down and analyze, what am I doing wrong? I don't know. I'll have to understand your diet, what is your breakfast, what is your lunch, what is your dinner, how much do you walk? That's what I'll ask you. And when it doesn't match, I'll say, you're not doing this, just do this. As simple as that. It's
Sir.
very simple.
sir,
Yes.
I wanted to ask about a disease. So I wanted to ask about thyroid. You have talked about hypertension and diabetes. I just wanted to ask about thyroid. Any slide was not about thyroid. So can you?
Can somebody explain his question?
I wanted to ask about thyroid disease. Thyroid.
They want to ask about hypothyroid.
Hypothyroid, yeah. Yeah, I mean, again, for hypothyroid, first of all, yes, for hypothyroid, do everything I'm saying and also do some yoga asanas. 2 of them, one is Sarvangasana, shoulder stand, because you want to stimulate your thyroid and your pituitary gland. When your head is down, inversion, your blood gushes to your thyroid glands and your pituitary gland, okay? Pituitary gland sends a signal to the thyroid gland called thyroid stimulating hormone, TSH. And that TSH makes your thyroid work. So do these 3 asanas, Halasana, Sarvangasana, Shishasana if you know, otherwise don't do it, but those can.
Yeah, I have a question to ask. You know, like just in this beginning stages of developing arthritis, and I was told to have calcium lifelong. So what is your advice about calcium?
Calcium, well, all green leafy vegetables are very rich in calcium.
And iron, so we don't take iron medicine?
No
the
calcium
tonic?
supplement.
No.
Calcium supplement you should not take.
Okay.
Calcium supplements are very hard on liver and kidney
Yes.
and should not be taken.
Another question is, if TSH is higher, but T3 and T4 are normal, so what should one do?
Well, the pH, if you eat, the food I'm talking is all alkaline. All food is alkaline. All animal food is acidic, okay? So the problem goes away. You get rid of milk from your food, yogurt from, curd from your food, all those things, these problems go away. These problems go away within a month.
Sir, excuse me, sir. So when you,
Okay.
when you said you went off the medicine in 2 years, so does that mean for 2 years you were not taking medicine, but still?
No, after 2 years, one by one I stopped taking. So I got rid of blood pressure medication first within 6 months, thyroid medication, gout medication. The last one was the diabetic. And the last one was the diabetic because I didn't know about dawn effect. My doctor didn't tell me about dawn effect. And when I applied that instant glucose meter, I realized I'm not diabetic.
Hello.
Okay.
Okay, so for 6 months you were without medicine and kept on calculating the readings for that, right?
No, I started leaving medicine after.
One by one. And kept on.
One by one at a
Okay.
time.
Sorry,
And now you can leave it in 2 months.
Did you really get my question?
Could you elaborate on the milk? You said you should not be taking this A2 milk, which is coming now, very
No,
cow
okay.
milk.
A2 milk has been there all the time. There's A1, A2 milk. They both have, one is slightly better than other. Cow milk is a little better. So there's a difference between something is healthy or something is healthier. Okay? Now, mustard oil, if you must have oil, oil is not healthy, period. Mustard seeds are better than mustard oil. Okay? Now, if you must have mustard oil, get a oil making machine. It only costs 30,000 rupees. There are many companies. We have it. We put mustard seeds, oil comes out, and then the bhusa. Keep the bhusa. Make your eggplant, bagan aloo in oil, and then put the bhusa back. Now you eaten whole food, whole seed. You have not eaten processed one, but you have cooked it in oil. So we make our own oil. We don't throw the bhusa away. In India, they give that away to cows. If you take your own mustard seed and get oil made, he'll do it for free for you, but he'll keep all the bhusa that he'll sell it to the dairy farm.
I just want to check if you understood my question, because I was asking if TSH is high, but T3 and T4 are normal. So do we still need to take the medicine?
Yeah. So, and I'm saying, no, first make the change. Don't give us medicine without changing. Compare, when I give you diet lifestyle, compare what you're doing wrong. You'll find out. Now, what I want to tell you is, if there's interest, I'll give you my phone number. And I'll start a group, IIT-D for Delhi Health. So if you are interested in participating, just send me a message. Please add me to the group. My number is 1, which is the area code, country code for US, 925 1925 284 2581. 2581. All right. Thank you very much.
Sir, one last question.
रुकावट के लिए खेद है. हमको 8 बजे ये हॉल खाली करना है. So may I request Gopal ji and Vinay Bansal? Gopal ji, आइए.
One can live in
Vinay
advance.
Bansal.
You can leave tomorrow old style and start the new style today.
Somebody is taking 100 mcg of thyroid tablet. He or she can leave advance, then start.
No, you first change the lifestyle. Don't change the drug. Let me finish this and then, yeah.
Thank you so much for the session, sir.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Hello. We will continue with the question answer for some more time. Okay.
क्या कर रहे हो भाई?
You can ask questions.
अच्छा.